Hello and welcome. I'm Excellent and this is my podcast. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Chaser.
Are you yelling at me?
Am I what at you?
You sound like you're yelling at me from the get go. From the jump, you're yelling at me.
No, I just said hello, Chaser.
Okay.
Just say hello, that's your name.
Shh. Yes, it is my name.
Oh,
How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing okay, thank you. How are you doing, Chaser?
I'm fantastic,
Well, there you go.
as always. Wow. Anyway, what are we doing our podcast about today, Rob?
Well, Chaser, it's funny you should ask that question
Isn't it, though?
because what we're going to do today, I put something up on the groups a couple of weeks back now, and it was about mental illness, but looking at all mental illnesses and how science has got their own sort of set of rules and regulations and what causes what and cause and effect and everything else like that. But maybe there is a supernatural, paranormal type cause and effect as well. So we're gonna try today to look at both. We aren't we, Tracy? We're gonna try today to look at both.
Yes, we are. That's what we're going to do. And before we get started, if you would like to, please give this video a thumbs up and share with people who are interested in paranormal or um, unsolved crimes, true crime stories, you know, the whole shebang. And if you would like to be subscribed, please do that. If you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, go ahead and smash that bell. All right, Rob.
Yep.
So we're going to sort of have a conversation, right?
Mm.
I want to start off, if it's okay with you, His Royal
Yeah.
Highness Monsieur Kane.
We're gonna fall out.
I'm going to start off with symptoms of mental illness, and these are like all the symptoms lumped together. So listeners, you're going to be able to pick out what they're trying to say. You're going to be able to pick out, oh, this is bipolar, or this is schizophrenia, or whatever. But it's all being lumped together just for the purposes of this podcast. Obviously, not every mental illness comes with every one of these symptoms, although I'm pretty sure I have like 90% of them. Okay, so excessive worry or fear. And what's wrong with that? Feeling excessively sad or low. I this is I feel like I'm reading the dictionary, and the word is Tracy. Um, as you know, Rob, because I call you crying a lot. Are you there, Rob?
I am listening to you and I am reading as well. I am listening to you and um yeah, but I don't. You don't ring me all the time crying. It's
Okay.
only sort of 99.9% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, it's not all the time.
It's not all the
Sometimes
time.
I'm yelling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes you're manic.
Stop. It's not true. Do not. I swear. Okay. Confused thinking or problems concentrating and learning. Extreme mood changes, including uncontrollable highs or feelings of euphoria. Prolonged or strong feelings of irritability or anger. I don't
Mm.
see a problem with that. Whatever. Avoiding friends and social activities. Oh, that probably is the definition of Tracy.
Well, that
Social activities. I'm an
just
introvert. Being an introvert is not a mental illness. It's a state of being.
it's a personality disorder.
It's not a disorder.
It
It's a
is.
trait, a personality trait.
Well, it's not if you read what just been reading. I've got avoidance personality disorder.
Oh, well, I am shy. I know it's hard to imagine. I mean, I know it's hard to imagine, but I am exceptionally shy. So, I'm an introvert until I get to know you, and then everything's off the table. Okay. Changes in eating habits such as increased hunger or lack of appetite. Changes in sleeping habits or feeling tired and low energy. Changes in sex drive, difficulty perceiving reality, delusions or hallucinations, in which a person experiences and senses things that don't exist in an objective reality, which we're going to swing back around and I'm going to address that one during this conversation. The inability to perceive changes in one's own feelings, behavior, or personality, a lack of insight, which would what would that be? Like a sociopath?
Mm, yeah.
Um, Overuse of substances like alcohol or drugs, multiple physical ailments. This is funny, Rob. Okay, Tracy. Multiple physical ailments with obvious causes, such as headaches, stomach aches, vague and ongoing aches and pains. Oh, sorry, without obvious causes. Headaches, stomach aches, vague and ongoing aches and pains. Um, Thinking about suicide, the inability to carry out daily activities or handle daily problems and stress, an intense fear of weight gain or concern with appearance. So I think we can pick out some of those. Change in work or school performances, excessive anxiety, um, fighting to avoid going to bed, hyperactive behavior, frequent nightmares, frequent disobedience or aggression, frequent temper tantrums, which I'm guilty of. Rob for sure has temper tantrums. Um, so anyway, so those are common symptoms of mental illness. And I'm probably sure that, oops, let's turn my phone off, that probably everybody listening to this right now thinks, well, I have about, I don't know, maybe 5 of those,
Yeah.
you know? So it doesn't mean you have a mental illness. It's just combined with a bunch of the other ones can mean a possible mental illness. I'm not diagnosing you. I am not a doctor. Do not take my word for it. I'm just, I'm, dude, you go see a doctor. Okay, Rob,
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
I think that it is a very, very thin line. And I think that a lot of people can be misdiagnosed
Mm-hmm.
because different, a lot of different emotions that people have and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different feelings and thoughts that people have. You have to be really, really careful because you could go and you could take anybody off the street who is allegedly normal, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
may be,
Yeah.
and sit them in front of a psychiatrist, psychologist,
Right.
and they could find something about their personality that maybe they are. I think you could easily diagnose somebody with a mental. You know, if you wanted to. I
Yeah.
don't mean.
No,
You,
seriously, if you let's say you take somebody off the street, you
yeah.
don't know them, they've never been diagnosed with a mental illness, and they tell you that Sometimes they worry a lot. Sometimes they have trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're tired all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they sleep too much.
Yes.
Um, you know, uh, a multitude of these. Sometimes they, feel like are anxious. That those there are things, believe it or not, that are simply human emotions,
Mm.
and I think we have to, you know, understand that. Just like I said, just because you have some things on this list does not mean you have a mental illness. There are things that are just simply human emotions.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot of overdiagnosing people with mental illness. And I think that we don't, as a society, look at mental illness as, like we were talking last night, Rob,
Mm.
an injury to the brain. The same cause and effect that when you're a newborn baby and those little lines, those little electrical connections start happening in their brains. So they pretty soon they go, oh, that's my mom's face. Oh, that's my mom's voice. Look at, I have hands. What are those things at the end of my legs? The a, a child doesn't know that they're not part of their mother, like as
Mm.
attached from their mother until they're 1 years old. So those same electrical lines through events that happen in our life, I believe, and many psychiatrists as well believe, can also be affected in trauma, in how you dealt with trauma and what you even perceive as trauma. Some people might have something occur to them that they just simply it damages those electrical connections, and we might think, well, that's nothing compared to blah 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 blah. So I think that if we would just start looking at mental illness as a brain injury, it might change our perception because nobody wants to admit if they've been diagnosed with a mental illness. Nobody wants to talk about it at a dinner party, but people will talk about their heart attack. People
Yeah.
will talk about their stroke. People will talk about how they broke their leg because it's perceived differently.
Mm. It shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. But we're going to talk about how mental illness and the paranormal might somehow be one and the same for
Mm.
some people. Not
Yeah.
everybody, but
Yeah.
in some circumstances, right? Like um, seeing things that aren't there, hearing voices that aren't there. For those of us in the paranormal community, if somebody says, I think my house is haunted, I hear voices, disembodied voices. How many times do we hear that in a horror story
Yeah.
or ghost story? It's a disembodied voice. If you hear a disembodied voice in your house and you're telling it as a ghost story, people
Well,
don't
accept it easily.
they will accept it. If you're walking down the street and you tell a stranger on the street that there's somebody standing next to them that they can't see, not likely to accept that, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Gonna think that you have a mental disorder.
Yeah. I think they've lost the plot.
Yeah, right? So that's interesting to me that as a paranormal community, we do accept some strange things. We say, yes, I saw a ghost. I saw the Hat Man. I saw a shadow figure. I saw a lady in a white dress. And everybody's like, me too. Where? How? What happened? Right? We go on haunted tours. We go to haunted hotels.
Yeah,
We seek out those experiences that some people have sitting in the living room, walking down the street, and those people are diagnosed with mental illness.
yeah, I agree entirely with that. You've hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I think it's a cultural thing as well. I've told this
Mm,
story before. That I used to work with this Asian girl, and her grandfather was classed. He was a schizophrenic, and they would not um, they would not allow. Basically, actually, he was living on the streets because the family they wouldn't accept it as a mental illness because he was hearing voices and um, he was classed as being like possessed or something, or
uh,
can't remember exactly, but they would. He was just not. They just would not accept it. They would not accept the fact that he's got according to the doctors, he had a mental illness, and he could hear voices, and he was seeing things that hallucinating or seeing things, and that always stuck with me because I always thought to, well, maybe. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, Chase. Maybe he didn't have schizophrenia. Maybe he was able to see stuff and hear stuff
mm-hmm.
that other people or the majority of people can't see and hear.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe their culture was right that
mm-hmm.
he was possessed or he was cursed or whatever. So yeah, it always made me think that.
Hmm. Maybe 500 years from now, that man would be considered a shaman.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll move away from psychiatry and mental illness. And I mean, I'm not saying I advocate for this or anything. I'm just saying perhaps when more, if they did more, if doctors, psychiatrists, and everything didn't just write off everything as a mental illness, perhaps they could do more investigation. We I don't know a single person who believes in spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, that doesn't at some point say, maybe we're the ones haunting them,
yeah,
right? Maybe
yeah,
maybe we're dead and we're haunting them. And how is that different? Maybe 500 years from now, they'll think than somebody who does see and hear voices or people. Maybe they're seeing something that happened in that space in the past or the future. Maybe they
yeah.
have a gift rather than an illness. And I'd like to, I mean, I just think it'd be interesting to do some kind of scientific study on that is unbiased and, isn't going to lean some direction because that's how the scientist feels about it from the beginning. Just kind of just do something to see maybe if it is possible that some people are clairvoyant in that way because we lots and lots millions of people go to clairvoyance, right?
And
Oh,
psychics,
I
yeah.
hear, yeah, I hear somebody talk, they're coming to me from the other side. How is that accepted? But other people saying it's mental illness. If you don't talk about dead people, then it's a mental illness. If you say you're talking to dead people, then it's a gift. It's clairvoyant, right?
Mm,
If you talk about religion in your hearing voices or saying things, God's speaking to me. If somebody's standing on the street saying, God's telling me to tell you, you would go, nut job,
mm,
right? But if that same person went to New Orleans and went to see a card reader, and that they said, "Is there somebody in your family whose name starts with a J?" Yes, my brother was James. They're totally open to the fact that this clairvoyant is telling this card reader is telling them that their brother's talking to them, right?
Mm.
But religion specifically, having religious um, hallucinations, is specifically diagnosed as a mental illness.
You just made me realise something that
Huh.
I've never realised.
Hmm.
And when you brought up religion,
Yeah.
People who listen to us before, I'm Catholic, and I pray. Now, I have a conversation. To me, a prayer is like it's like having a conversation with somebody who, to a lot of people in the world, doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because atheists and whatever say
Mm-hmm.
there's no God, so they would think what I'm doing is just stupid and waste of time. And
Right.
sometimes I have that voice in my head, whether it's my conscience, whether it's God, whether it's whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and I I don't perceive that to be unusual or strange or anything like that. I just presume that it's just maybe it's just God.
Well, I was raised being told that if you have that feeling, that voice in your head that is, usually in your own voice, that says this is wrong or this feels, like I shouldn't be doing it, that was I was raised being told that's the Holy Spirit. That's God talking you through the Holy Spirit to make the right decisions, whatnot.
Mm.
And so you would think that people who are religious, because most religions believe, that there is an afterlife, or that there are people who pass over. You'd think that they'd be more open to the concept of maybe that person isn't mentally ill, but can see something. Because, like, for instance, in the Bible, you were talking about the Bible.
Yeah.
Um, in the Bible, God speaks to Adam and Eve. He speaks to Noah. He speaks to Abraham. He speaks to Hagar. Um, he speaks to Samuel. Um, he speaks to Amos through visions. He spoke to Mary
Moses.
through a vision.
Yeah.
Um, so, Moses was supposed to have spoken to him. Was it Moses that spoke to him face to face?
Yeah.
Um, um, for so talking about the burning bush. In Midian, while Moses was keeping flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the angel of the Lord appeared to Moses in that bush that burned. That was the angel of the Lord. Um, so people, Christians, and I'm just going to address Christians right now, have grown up being told that you talk to God.
Yeah.
Um, the Greek religion says you talk to gods. The Baha'i faith says you talk to gods. The Druze faith, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism all incorporate speaking to God, which is not considered a mental illness by religious people. But they do reject, oddly enough, somebody on the street corner who says that God talks to them. They reject that, which is strange to me.
Yeah.
I think that God just stopped talking to people, I guess. And
Say
maybe
that
that person
again.
is, it's like they feel like God just stopped talking to people. There just came a time where God was like, well, Jesus, once Jesus is gone, Boom, no more communication verbally with God. But maybe that's not the case.
Well, no. I just think the thing that annoys me the most, well, you know that this is my big bugbear, is skeptics, science will not even entertain the possibility of um, people talking to God or God talking back or
Yeah,
hearing a voice or
yeah,
believing in the miracles, or they will not even entertain it.
yeah,
And they always hide behind science. But sometimes I feel I have a little bit of hope. Sometimes you hear of certain scientists who maybe are becoming a little bit more open. Um, and I really, you must have heard the stories as well. Um, I have seen a couple of TED Talks
mm-hmm,
where surgeons who
mm-hmm,
have had a near death experience and who didn't believe in anything before and have this near death experience, whether they've had an accident or they're having an operation and they've died, and
yeah,
they come back and they believe, they suddenly completely believe that there's a God and there's a heaven and there's a Jesus
yeah,
and you know,
yeah. I was going to bring TED Talks up as well. Also,
oh,
there's lots of videos on YouTube that people can look up where the doctor, the surgeon, you know, wasn't a believer, was an atheist in lots of cases, has an experience where they have an out of body experience where they watch what's happening and
mm,
hear the conversations of the doctors, come back, tell the doctors, I heard you say this. And they admit, yes, that's exactly what happened. So those doctors then become, they think, wait a minute, maybe I personally experienced an out of body experience. I personally went into some place where there was some sort of a God, something that made me very calm and relaxed, and uh, and so they do become spiritual in some way. I don't know if they necessarily take up a certain religion, but they do say there's just nothing else to explain it other than there's some spiritual aspect to us, and I
mm,
think that's really interesting to watch. Um, I had a I had a nurse tell me once. I was in the hospital and very close to dying, and this nurse had she was telling me the story. She was doing it to calm me down, which she had broke a blood vessel and I was bleeding out all over the floor. They had to put a sheet around my arm. My daughter was 13 years old at the time, and she uh, remembers it vividly. But for some reason, she chose this moment to tell me her story. This is funny. So they have me wrapped up in the sheet, and she says, "You know, I had a near-death experience once." Like, are you trying to tell me something? And she had gotten in a car accident. She'd been thrown out of her car, and she was laying in a twisted heap out of her car when um, a car pulled over and called for help. Um, they She wasn't breathing. They thought she was dead. She said that she had a consciousness thing happen where she was laying in a field of flowers, and that a godlike being came up to her and was speaking to her, and she said it was warm, she wasn't scared. She said, and this was interesting to me, that she always thought the reason she was afraid of dying was that she was scared about um, leaving her children,
yeah,
because as
yeah,
parents we think we're going to be gone and we're going to miss our kids, right?
yeah,
She said that she was not worried about the well-being of her children. that was completely taken away from her. And she said that she realized that if there was a heaven, it wouldn't be heaven if you were worried
Worried.
about your family.
Yeah.
Um, and the, the the person that was speaking to her told her that it wasn't her time and she had to go back. And she had been technically dead for about 12 and a half minutes, they thought. Not technically, she was dead.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even breathing. Um, they brought her back, the paramedics, and she went on to become a nurse because of it. Because she wanted to work with people who maybe would die, and she could give them an insight into what her experience was. Still, by the way, I thought the timing was a little off. Maybe don't tell me when I'm losing buckets of blood. Just, I don't know. Um, but, so I thought that was interesting. She never like claimed to be a religion, by the way. She just said that she felt had gone from complete atheist, when you die, it's black, you're in the dirt, gone, to believing completely something completely different.
Yeah.
So, there's lots of different videos like that, on YouTube. And like I said, you said, TED Talks,
Oh, they're brilliant.
really good.
Yeah. If you don't know what they are, just put it on YouTube. Just type it in TED Talks, and you'll get a million different ones on different subjects, and
Yeah,
they're really interesting. Really, really interesting if you like that kind of thing.
yeah. So I think, do you think, do you think that it's possible that somebody who hears voices or sees things that aren't there, like that things that aren't there to other people, do you think that it's possible that they're maybe not mentally ill, maybe not everybody, of course, but some of them have a gift of some sort, or like in religious
Yeah.
traditions, because it used to be that people would think that they were possessed
Mm.
by a devil, they were possessed.
I
Do you
definitely think
think,
that. I definitely think that. Yeah.
not
Hundred
that they're
percent.
possessed, but is it
No,
possible that it could be possessed too?
I think there is a possibility. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Because I think there's. I have tried to look at so much information about this subject. It's one of my favourite subjects. You know that, Trace.
Uh-huh.
I talk about
Yeah.
it all the time.
Yeah.
I really, really believe that science has got it wrong. I really, really, not in everything, like you said before, not in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are genuine people who are genuinely mentally ill and have. And we're not trying to say that, like you said before, we're not trying to say that everybody with mental illness is
Well, no,
basically.
and as you know, I mean, I've struggled with depression and anxiety.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm certainly not saying that mental illness isn't a real thing, obviously.
Because
Although
we
I would
totally
like to
we
see it called more of a brain injury.
because I
But
asked you the question, didn't I, the other day? Um, I've been diagnosed. I've got some mental illness as well, PTSD, and
yes.
supposedly personality disorder. But after looking today or yesterday at my little bit of homework, I didn't realise there were so many different personality disorders. There are
Mm-hmm.
actually 10 types of personality disorders.
Are there?
There's antisocial, there's avoidant, there's borderline, there's historical or hysterical, something.
Hysterical.
No, hysterical, sorry. There's narcissistic, there's obsessive compulsive personality disorder, there's paranoid personality disorder, and schizoid personality disorder. So I didn't realise there was all them different types of personality disorder.
Really? They
I
consider obsessive compulsive OCD as a personality disorder?
That's what they've got down here.
Interesting. Huh.
See, I think that OCD could be. I think. See, this here's lies the problem, in my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You've just hit the nail on the head. You said, "Do you think that OCD is a personality disorder?"
Mm-hmm.
I think that OCD is leans more towards PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is the problem. It's hard to just say you've got an obsessive compulsive personality disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and that is your diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that works. I think it's got to overlap. It's, you can't just put people in this little box and say
Mm-hmm.
you're antisocial. You've got antisocial personality disorder. How did you become antisocial? Is
Mm-hmm.
it could it be due to PTSD? Did you have
Mm-hmm.
trauma in your life? So now
Mm-hmm.
you're antisocial, or now you're avoiding people. So you've got avoidance
Mm-hmm.
personality disorder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yes, which is what I said about why I think we should call it a brain injury
yeah.
because of that trauma, and maybe it's trauma that we don't even. Maybe it's trauma that happened as a child that we were so young that we don't remember. Although, of course, as you know, I'm very aware of because I also have PTSD, um, which took me years and years and years and years to even tell anybody I was diagnosed with that because I always perceived PTSD to be saved for extreme cases of people who had seen war, or something that traumatic, which, as you know, because we've talked about it.
Mm.
Um, um, so I mean, I know where my trauma came from, and I completely believe that it just like if it when it happens when your brain is forming, a human adult's brain is formed at 25 years old. So we have 25 years to hold on and get through, right? While our brain is forming. But if something traumatic happens in that time, why isn't it considered a medical issue? Like they can give you drugs to help you forget a very traumatic experience. Um, as an example, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I found out the hard way. The medication that you're given before you have a surgery, when they come in, they're like, here comes the margarita. The purpose of that medication, other than to calm you down, is to help you forget anything that you might see or hear during your surgery that could be traumatic.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Now, the reason I found that out was because I had a bad reaction to that medication, which I didn't know was possible, but I had an extremely bad reaction to that medication. But it was like 5 days after my surgery, so which was interesting. But that's when I called my doctor and I was like, something weird is happening, and he explained it to me. Well, next time you have surgery, explain because this is a symptom that people get because of this medication. This is what the medication does. Tell them that you can't take that part of the margarita. They have to do something different. Um, but that's how I learned that to help you not remember something traumatic. So, knowing that, if we have a brain forming and that brain is making connections to help us make decisions, to help us be caregivers, to, to help us be able to function in a society, right down to the basic how to, um, recognize your mother's face when you're an infant. If something traumatic goes in there and like changes the direction of that neuropath, which in the long run causes us to have anxiety, depression, PTSD, whatever. That's why, like I said, I saw that this doctor say we need to call those injuries. Injuries, because if we treated it like an injury, this happened to you. It injured your neuropathic, directions that your brain was going. It
Yeah.
didn't proceed on like somebody who wasn't injured, who didn't experience this trauma, would just go on. We could deal with it medically, which would also include counseling. But
Yeah.
the medication might not have to be a long-term medication if we dealt with it medically.
Mm.
If they would do investigating into how you go to that, where that trauma happened in your life, where where those pathways were connected, and see, just like they could take an MRI of a brain of somebody who's got mental illness and see where it lights up and where it doesn't. Okay, so we need to concentrate on this part of the brain. And I would love to have them do that, study people who pray, or people who, like, say they speak in tongues, people who go in trances for their religion, people who are meditating, especially people who meditate for their religion.
I think they
Do
have done
their
it for people that
brains,
pray.
do they do their brains do something? And now compare that to somebody who has schizophrenia,
Oh,
who is seeing, they're saying they hear God. Is it the same part of the brain?
that's. I know they've. Um, I have watched some programs or some stuff on YouTube where they have looked at someone's brain who prays. But your point was good. It was better actually. They didn't compare it to someone else who thinks they hear voices.
I
Or
wish we could do something like that,
yeah, that would be a good idea.
because then we could also get down to, can we, as scientists, not laugh about paranormal experiences? You can't tell me that a scientist has never seen or heard something that they can't explain. They're humans,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
So can we just put on hold all biases against supernatural, paranormal experiences? I mean, we've actually had the government come out and go, UFOs? Yes, we have those. And it barely made a blip on the news, right? So
yeah,
put away our biases for a second, because I think most people are open to doing that, and study paranormal side by side with scientific, and see if there is not a connection. Maybe for some people who do, if you go to a card reader or a psychic, a medium, any of those, if you believe in that, then why, it has to be that you believe that some of these people who are mentally ill have this talent, but it's not
mm,
directed. They didn't have anybody in their life to direct it in the proper way. Maybe they were just automatically diagnosed with a mental illness.
yeah,
Where if my child grows up in my house and says that they feel like maybe they can have psychic abilities, maybe they have psychic abilities. I do have a child who feels that way. I don't say that's a mental illness. I say, you know, Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's been here and listened to my podcast for a long time knows that I have. I've come to the conclusion that what I consider myself is empathic. I have some sort of empath abilities. Also, I totally believe that I have some sort of psychic abilities. I've always said I'm not a psychic, and I still say that I'm not a psychic. But I have some psychic abilities. I don't harness them because I don't know how. But what if I grew up in a house with a mother who did and didn't label it as a mental illness?
Well, there's definitely something weird going on with you.
Weird? Talent.
Yeah.
It's talent.
I mean, like we were saying, for I only have to think about ringing Tracy, and she rings me
Mm-hmm. And
all the
every time
time.
I do, you go, I was just thinking about calling you. And every time you do, I say, I know.
And all the time, you will say something, or I will say something. Like yesterday, I was looking at what was it? What was the last one? I can't remember what it
With
was.
tables. With tables.
Tables. I was looking. I had a conversation with my friend Nigel about if he sees this table, could you try and pick it up for? Tell me about it. Pick it up for me because I'm after a little table for my bedroom.
And you
And
had
then you,
not, we did not discuss this.
no,
I
we
did
didn't
not,
discuss it.
I didn't even know you had a little table in your bedroom. That was
I even,
Nigel's.
yeah, yeah. I had to. I even took a photograph of it, didn't I?
Yes.
After.
So this is not something that I was aware of or that we had discussed. Go ahead.
So I said to you about the table, and you said, "Are you?" Well, you said
No,
to me,
I said to you, yes.
you said, "Are you shitting me?" Didn't you?
Well, no, what I said to you was, I said, so I talked to my husband today. I told him I need to buy a table.
Oh right, yeah. And then I said, "You're not going to believe what I'm saying now," which I say all the time because I think I think that it's happening so much that you're going to think that I'm just saying it.
Yes.
But I honestly don't do that. And I said, and I told you about this about Nigel, me and the conversation that Nigel had about the table. But
Yes.
it happens all the time. It
It happens
happens
all the time. Or
all the
I'll
time.
talk about some random actor from the 80s that hasn't done anything in 20 years. And you'll go, you are not going to believe this. Like, my TV is paused. I'm watching this movie. And they're right there. Stuff like that happens all the time with us. Or you're not going to believe this. I just picked up a book that was about this subject. If I'm saying, boy, I'm falling down the rabbit hole of watching these videos about blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah,
you'll be like, you gotta be kidding me because I was blah, 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 blah. That happens all the time with us.
even our playlists in our cars, music.
Yes.
How
Yes,
random
even
is
our
that?
playlist. Random songs that we're probably the only two people on the planet who have them on our playlist. And
It's
we're like, you
crazy.
gotta be kidding me. Yeah, so and like I was telling you that I was thinking about this dinner that I used to have when I was a child, and I haven't had it since. Okay, I had
Mm.
it as a child. Was thinking about it. My husband. It was a
Oh yeah,
TV dinner. Yeah, my husband
yeah.
comes home from the grocery store, pulls this TV dinner. I don't eat TV dinners. Those of you in America who know, like banquet TV dinners. Um, in Britain, you could call it a ready meal. Um, he pulls out this TV dinner and goes, "Hey, I thought I would get you one of these." It was the thing I was thinking about.
It's
It
crazy.
was so crazy. So yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And
What about the colours? Tell them about the colours,
okay,
the
okay,
numbers.
so I have this party trick that my kids have me do to all their friends and them. And I can say, think of a color. And I don't put a limit on the color. I don't say it has to be, yellow or blue. I say, if you're thinking of a shade of a color, think that too, like a mustard yellow or a light blue. Think that as well when you're picturing your color. And do not change the color. Once you pick a color, you have to stay there. Stay on that color. Don't change it. I can put my hand on your head, close my eyes, and the color will appear to me with my eyes closed. The shade and everything. I was telling Rob, 85% of the time. And the rest of the time, they have changed their color. Also with numbers. And I don't say pick a number between 1 and 10. I just say pick a number. Put my hand on your forehead. Don't change your number. Close my eyes, and the number will come up in my head. I'm not crazy, and I'm not mentally ill. It did freak a mother out of my child's friend's mother out so badly that she was not allowed to come to my house anymore. I guess even in this day and age, people think it's magic, black magic. Um, and I was always raised that you never go to a psychic. It was against our religion because there are psychics. It mentions them in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
There are people who see things. It mentions them in the Bible. And they're not called mentally ill, but they are not somebody we're supposed to follow. So I was always like afraid to like tell my parents that I could, see things or know things were going to happen or whatever. I used to close my eyes and okay, another thing that happened with me and my husband was I picked a random word. I was thinking about it in my head, a random word. And what was it, Rob?
Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels. I picked a random word, closed my eyes, concentrated on Charlie's Angels for 10 minutes. And then my eyes went about my business and my husband turned around and said, Charlie's Angels. And I go, what? And he goes, did you say Charlie's Angels? So, I think there are things that I can't be explained. But I could have been, you know, hung as a witch.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's all. I mean, you like. I know. I love this word, the kitchen witch.
Yes.
So in I don't know whenever witches were burnt and the Salem witch trials and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the 1400s or something? Something ridiculous. Or was it later than that?
I think it was 16, 17.
Yeah. If you had some psychic abilities like that, and
Mm-hmm.
you could help, you could use herbs and plants and stuff
Mm-hmm.
to heal people. You're
Mm-hmm.
burning people they're burning people with the stake for it,
Yes, that's right.
calling them witches.
Yeah. Lots and lots of people practice witchery in this day and age and don't even know it. If they're using herbs to, to heal or garlic and whatever. A lot of when this COVID came out, all of the natural remedy stuff um,
Yeah,
was sold out of the stores. All of a sudden, people are like, "We're going back to the basics," and that's what kitchen witchery is. Is make brewing tea out of certain herbs to help a cough. You
yeah,
know that kind of stuff. A lot of our medications that we use today are stemmed from those kitchen witches. Aspirin is taken from the asp tree. It's from its bark. aspirin. So, it's a lot of that kind of stuff. So I wonder, like, back to paranormal and mental illness, if we've gone so far science that we've forgotten that we used to consider those kinds of things normal,
Yeah,
and we would think that that would be the person in the tribe who was the shaman.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Hold on, Rob.
It's
I gotta fix
just,
my earbuds. Hold on. So you go ahead and talk, Rob.
yeah. It's just amazes me that I know I said it before. The skeptics and especially hate skeptics, they just will not accept anything. They will just not accept any kind of thing that's a little bit outside of the normal. Then it's got to be a hoax, or it's got to be this, or it's got to be that. I can't stand it at all. Just open your mind a little bit.
Mhm.
Just open your mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that if people would open their minds a little bit, we would see things a little bit different.
Do you know, talking about witches, do you, we always assume nowadays that the witch trials were, the witches were all innocent
They were
and
usually midwives.
midwives. Do you,
Yeah, kitchen
do you,
witches.
do you think there were any real black witches then?
No, no,
You
no.
don't?
I think they were kitchen wives. They were midwives, kitchen witches. They were midwives who used herbs and helped heal people. Um, and those are the people who were. I don't. There really aren't. A, a black witch is a very rare thing because most witchcraft, quote unquote, comes from pagans. Pagans were all about worshiping and taking care of the earth and your body, and that's why they used natural remedies and figured out natural medications. They, you know, weren't really. They would cast love spells and that kind of thing. They
Mm-hmm.
weren't really casting spells to kill people or blind somebody. I mean, of course, there's always the exception to the rule, right?
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I mean, I guess there could have been maybe, but I don't think there's a general rule.
But then you've got the likes of voodoo,
Yeah.
which is which we've talked a lot about. Um,
Mhm.
but is it? Have you got to believe in it for it to affect you? That is
Yeah.
always my question about voodoo.
Well, even voodoo, unless you're going into Santeria, even the main tenets of voodoo is not to harm people; it's to heal. But then you get into Santeria and you know, sacrificing of whatever chickens usually, but there are people who even go so far as humans. Then that's a whole different bag there, and I I believe in it enough that I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, like I do. Like we've had that conversation, and I think if you believe in it, then if something bad happens to you when somebody puts a curse on you, you're going to say it's because they put a curse on you. So whether it worked or not is all in your mind.
do you remember we both watched that film, aren't we? The Skeleton Key with
Mhm.
Kate. Was it Kate Hudson? Not Kate Hudson.
No, it's
Any,
Kate Hudson.
it was Kate Hudson, yeah.
Yeah.
and she's got a friend. If you remember the film, she's got a friend, this black girl, and she was going to the voodoo shop, and her girlfriend says that she doesn't believe in voodoo or hoodoo or whatever. Well, she wouldn't go in the shop with her. She went,
That's right.
I'm not going any further. And she said, well, I thought you didn't believe in it. She says, I don't, but I'm not going in the shop.
Yes, that's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
won't go in the shop. Exactly.
Oh, dear me.
Well, is there anything else you want to cover, Rob?
I just think that people just open your minds a little bit. If you're listening to this channel, if you're listening to this podcast, sorry, then you must be quite open-minded anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you would have stumbled across us if you thought that we were talking about politics or stuff like that. It's definitely for people who believe in supernatural or paranormal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's our bag. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if there are people out there that are a little bit skeptic, just open your minds a little bit and just, especially at the moment with all the pressure that everybody's under with the coronavirus and everything like that. Mental health is in the news a lot at the moment, and people are struggling. Just try and take care of yourselves, and you know, oh, yeah, just take care of yourselves and try and be a little bit more open minded. I
Yeah,
think,
and I would like to say about the people who are struggling with mental health with the COVID thing.
yeah,
That's a very real situation. And if somebody is somebody that is struggling, please do reach out and give them support and help. It's been particularly rough on one of my children, and I know that that person isn't alone in their struggle. Um, so let's be especially a little more open and kind to people who are struggling right now, because it's pretty hard.
yeah. And sometimes, if people are struggling and they know there are other people out there that are struggling, it
Hmm.
it sort of helps that you know that you're not on your own.
Right.
You know, you're not. It's not just you. I mean,
Yeah.
both Tracy's found it really difficult. I've found it difficult for different reasons.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it is difficult. But you know, hopefully we can all look after each other, which is what we've always said on this channel.
Yep.
Always look after each other.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right, Rob. Well, I've enjoyed this.
yeah, yeah. It's been a little bit different than what we normally do, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I have a video coming up, and I have a couple videos coming up that I'm excited about. One is about the UFO sighting, and one is about a haunted house. So I'm also going to be doing some true paranormal stories um, that people have turned into Reddit, which is, I love to read them. And so I have that coming up, and I actually have so much stuff coming up, and I'm feeling so much better. So, yay.
you know that haunted house one.
Yes,
Was it a haunted house or was it just the pipes? Now, be honest.
it's a haunted house.
I was just being a skeptic for a minute.
It's a haunted house. Yes, believe me, there's something weird there.
Okay.
So I'll send you, as a matter of fact, I think it's where you live, which I'm not going to broadcast right now. but I think this house is. I think I mentioned it to you, and it's where you live. So maybe I'll
All
send you
right.
there on a little homework. What do you think? Maybe you can tell me if it's the pipes or not,
Well,
Rob.
well, probably not at the moment because we're in lockdown, but
Oh, fine. See, excuse.
I think I can get stopped by the police and they'll go, "Where are you going?" Oh, well, actually, funnily you should say that. I've just, Tracy, put the exit light. Well, I'm doing a bit of homework. Yes, sir. Well, here's your £200 fine, and you go and enjoy yourself.
I'm just trying to see if this house is haunted.
Yeah,
Okay. That's a valid reason. You never know. The cop might go, that's a valid reason.
yeah. Just get into this white jacket with no sleeves.
There is nothing wrong with a medically induced hug, Rob.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Like I said, please give this a thumbs up, share with other people, subscribe, come back, and click that bell if you'd like to be notified when my content goes live.
Yep.
And for those of you who have made it this far, tell me if you're watching the Vanishing Cecil Hotel. Crime
Yeah.
scene, Vanishing Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think. Because
Yep.
I have an opinion so far, and so does Rob. So probably talk about that too.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.